I'm Aycee Brown, and you're listening to Is My Aura On Straight, a podcast designed to help you start living from your core instead of your conditioning. Each week, we'll discuss topics ranging from human design, astrology, metaphysics, spiritual self-development, and everything in between. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Is My Aura On Straight. I am your host, Aycee Brown. I am your spiritual doula, intuitive strategist, and human design expert. And I'm also an entrepreneur. And I want to thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Is My Aura On Straight. This episode is a little bit different. I have some confessions, some things to let you guys know, information. As you can tell from the title of this podcast today, are you there, Aycee? It's me, Spirit. It's gonna be a little bit of story time, and not bad story time, but just more of a revelation that I have been, evolving into and coming into for a very, very long time. I know you guys heard me reference, me being intuitive, and I love to use that word, intuitive. And that's pretty much because I've been afraid of the word psychic and channel, and, medium for a very, very long time. So this is sort of like my coming out of the spiritual closet, episode, as a psychic and channel. I don't want to claim medium yet or anything like that because I'm really starting to embrace that. And I'll tell you why I'm starting to embrace it. But the psychic and channel part, absolutely. Some people who have known me for a very long time already know this about me. I have a set of clients who come to me every year for their yearly readings. I do it on the low. One of my neighbors, actually, he comes to me for advice. He'll probably listen to this, and we discuss stuff and everything. But this has been something that has been sort of, I don't want to say a secret, but just something that I don't verbally come out and say until maybe I get to know people a little bit more. The things that I hear and that I see are very real. And I've gotten a lot of confirmation over the past couple of months and lately, really intensely, over the last few weeks. Spirit has been super trolling me, and, I'll tell you why. As you guys always, as I always tell you, guys, ladies and gents, that, human design for me is like a tarot card. I use it, and sometimes I see stuff and, I'll talk about it in my readings. I know when people do 30-minute recorded readings, I always get emails back from them like, oh, how did you know about, such and such? You made a reference to this. And it's just something that I hear or see. And this is going to be more of a part of my work publicly. And that's why I'm doing this, because this is more of a, if you could hear the trembling in my voice, it's very scary for me to actually say, hey, here I am, world. I'm a psychic and channel. That's something that I have been running away from. The intuitive word is so safe. It's been a safety net for me for a long time. Most of the time when I do readings and stuff, people come to me for business things. One of my mentors, she's a financial psychic, and she has a lot of clients on Wall Street. And years ago when I was training, doing stuff with her, I learned a lot. But this is something that I've had since I was a child. If you heard me reference, my grandmother, she knew about it. And I would always pick numbers for her. She would win. She also has the gift as well. She didn't really talk about it, but she does. Well, she did, because she's passed. But I always had a lot of instances and things, and that I've not necessarily ignored, but that I just kept on the low, because you don't want to be like the weird girl. You know, you don't want to be the weird, oh, she has visions and this and that and all of that stuff. I remember growing up having the most vivid, crazy dreams. And me and my grandmother used to talk about them, and she would ask me questions and all of that stuff. And then she would go play numbers based off of the dreams that I had. So it's just been a long time coming. So I'm just at this stage in my life where it's time to stop hiding that. I know what I'm going to do with this. Like I said, I'm more of a psychic channel kind of. That's my gifting. And the way that my guides come through, you always hear me talk about my guides, and they are very real. People come to me for a lot of business advice, and I would say 9.9% of the time, I am not me. My guides and what I hear and what I see are extremely right. So when I do strategy sessions with people, I always tell them, listen, if you don't want to listen, leave me alone. Just leave me alone. But most of the time, people listen, and the things that come through, it blows up for them. And I'm not saying that to toot my own horn, but it's something that I have always just used as not even as a tool, just as a more sporadic kind of thing. My psychic abilities, my channel abilities, I've always kept them very sporadic. And that was because I was afraid of tapping into them more frequently. And so how did I get to this episode finally? So I've been where I am at now in Maryland for about 8 years. And there's this lady, she teaches classes here and on all sorts of things. And I've been probably looking at her website for years and years and years and years. And then I finally was like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and take a weekend workshop with her. And because I just wanted to just find something. So I called her, and surprisingly, she was like, oh, I never answer my phone, but I answered my phone. So she answered her phone for me, and we talked, and she was, I was telling her, and she was just like, well, it's not going to go away. And it was just so interesting because the workshop was almost filled. She only had like 2 spots left. So I was like, okay, if, I was just saying, like, Spirit, if you want me to go to this workshop, send me a sign. Send me a sign. So the sign that Spirit sent me was, I woke up and there was somebody standing next to my bed. And I literally screamed at the top of my lungs, and I was just like, okay, fine. That's the sign. Great. So I go to the workshop, and I'm there. I had no expectations, but I had a lot of misconceptions, not only about reading people or mediumship or channeling, but about my abilities. Because I thought that, I wasn't tapping into it properly. Like, it's sporadic. It's just whatever. What I say, it just comes when it wants to. And that wasn't the case. So, not to tell you about the whole workshop or anything like that, but at the end of the workshop, I said, the teacher said to me, she's like, yeah, you really didn't need this. All you need is practice. Because I pretty much read for everyone there, even the teacher, and I was like 100% accurate for everything. And I did not know these people at all. And so, which happens to me a lot. My accuracy is pretty high. But like I said, it was always sporadic to me. So I didn't think about it. And so I had a lot of misconceptions, not only for what I thought was supposed to happen or what was happening to me, that I just ignored it as being that is how I receive information. So on my Facebook page, I do this thing called Me and My Guides, and I actually offer that as a service, Me and My Guides. You can ask me one question, I tap in, give you the answer. It could be around love, business, whatever. I still offer that service. And I always used to just do it like sporadically, once every 3 or 4 months on my Facebook page, and I would receive emails, well, not emails, but DMs after DMs about people after I like read them. Like, they asked a question, I would just be typing it up. I would just literally be typing up what I heard, and what I saw. And then people would, DM me, and they were like, oh my God, how did you know that? I'm like, that's literally just my guides. I have no idea. And, then they would book readings for me and all of that stuff. And, I would help them. Fine. Like I said, I have my same clients that come to me every year, and they get readings from me once a year. And I just never really wanted to put up a shingle and be like, hey, I'm a psychic channel. Come on in so I can tell your future, because I don't like to use it that way. Because I am very sensitive to the fact that some people can use these tools or people as a crutch. And I don't want people to do that with me. I want people to really come to me when they're in need, especially when it comes to career, business. I hate doing love readings because it's just like, sis, leave him, girl, leave him. Sometimes not always that, but because love is so challenging. But any help or clarity, that's what I like doing. And so I'm at this workshop, and she had us do so many exercises. And one of the exercises she had us do, and it's like pretty much called like British style, kind of like mediumship. And it's where, you've seen the John Edwards, or you remember Sylvia Rohn. She used to be on the Montel Williams show all the time, just sitting and just calling out stuff. Well, John Edwards does it a lot more. He just starts calling out stuff. And that's considered British style. The people in the UK invented that type of style of reading and mediumship. And so nobody else in the class wanted to do it. So I'm always the risk taker. I'm like, fine, I'll just go ahead and do it. Ain't nothing gonna happen anyway. So I go, and so she's just like, okay, take a deep breath. So I take a deep breath, take a couple of deep breaths. And then she's like, okay, tell me what you see. So I start telling her what I see, and I'm not going to repeat the information. But I start telling her what I see, and she starts busting out laughing. And this is the teacher. And so she's like, keep going. She's like, keep going. Tell me what else you see. So I'm telling her what I saw, and I'm like, then this happens, and then that happens, and then this happens, all of this stuff. And she's cracking up. And so I'm probably 5 minutes, because we had to wait to give feedback for each other after we were done. So I'm 5 minutes, 6 minutes. And then I saw black, and so I stopped. And so she was cracking up, literally stitches. And I'm just like, hello, help me out. What's going on? And so she's like, oh, those are my grandparents. And I was just like, what? And she was just like, yeah, those are my grandparents. And then she starts giving me every single thing that I said to her. And she's like, yep, this is them. And this is why you saw this. This is why you saw that. And I'm just like, interesting. And then I had this huge epiphany. I'm just like, oh my God. I had so many misconceptions about myself for all of these years, because my channeling and my psychic abilities come in the form of moving images. And it never correlated to me that I could literally be, because I thought that, I was going to see an orb or a picture, that I was going to feel this energy and all of this stuff. And it feels chilly in here. There must be a spirit. That doesn't happen for me at all. At all. What happens for me, a movie literally starts playing in my head. So when people start asking me questions about their business, or about something in their life, a movie starts playing for me. It's literally an image of moving pictures. And then I start seeing faces. People start doing stuff. And so I read for everyone in the room. I was 100% accurate. People were like, oh my God. I was like, oh my God. And so I had so many misconceptions, OMG, this is how it happens for me all of these years of me thinking that these images that I was seeing were sporadic were actually how my guides and spirit communicated with me. And I was just like, this makes so many sense. I mean, this makes so much sense, because I literally, a friend of mine, she's probably listening to this, we were on Voxer one day, and I said, girl, I just had a vision about this whole thing for you, this whole like movement for you. And it just came into my mind, and it just started, like, I just started seeing images and pictures and everything. And I said, you don't have to do anything with it now, but this is for you. I know it. My guide said this is for you. And this is probably like in March, and she's working towards it now. And it's like going to be this huge thing, and she's can see it now. And it's just, and that's how information comes to me. And I was just like mind blown, just like all this time. I had so many misconceptions. That's why I never really wanted to like put that shingle on the door and say, oh, psychic channel, whatever. Because it always comes to me in ideas and in business. And when it comes to people, just asking general questions, I always see stuff as well. And I just never put two and two together. Like, this is all this time. Because I was like, oh yeah, I'm mostly claircognizant. And it's like, no, girl, you're like mostly clairaudient and clairvoyant. Because I could be standing next to somebody in Starbucks, and then all of a sudden a movie starts playing in my head, and I just like mind my business, and I just keep it quiet, keep it cute, keep it mute. And then I just try to erase the image out of my head, because sometimes it's so vivid, and it's so like it's just so there. And it was just such I was so plagued with this back and forth for all of these years. I mean, all my life of embracing this because of what people would say, even though in the background I had been doing it. And, people have come to me and said, I'm always a person when people have a business idea or something, or they're trying to develop something, they come to me and they say, hey, can you, Aycee, help me flesh this out? And then I flesh it out, and I come up with these amazing ideas that I channel, and I just let it go. And I just like, okay, just whatever. And people get amazing results. And I just always felt like it was sporadic, but it wasn't all this time. It was just like I wasn't paying attention. Like, I just wasn't paying attention to my own self. And during this workshop, the teacher had noticed something with me, because after other people would, we all took turns, and she would just say, I would say, oh yeah, I saw that too. And she would say, why didn't you say anything? And I was just like, because I didn't think it was relevant. And she like, so sort of like cursed me out, and like, and in an auntie way, she was like, how dare you? She was like, everything is relevant to spirit. She was like, everything's relevant. I said, well, I don't bring up certain things, especially when I read people, even now, because sometimes it relates to something that I've been through or something that I've seen. And she was like, that's none of your business. And I was just like, well, what do you mean? She's like, spirit's job is to send you that message, because you're that vessel, the fastest way that they can. So you becoming a better reader, a better, psychic channel when it comes to business and all of that stuff is in the details. And she was like, I can just imagine how many details you leave out when you talk. I said, you have no idea. I said, I leave out details all the time. Because I don't feel like it's relevant. Now I'm not going to do that anymore. But some of the things, we did an exercise after I had read somebody. She's like, well, what did you leave out? And so this one particular lady in the room, I said, well, I left out that she, the person that I saw was extremely well dressed. I mean, Chanel down to her, from her top to the bottom. And the lady was like, yeah, my mom only dresses in Chanel. And I was just like, oh, okay. Well, and I just left that out. But I say all of that to say, to tell you guys about this whole experience is that, I always tell you human design is the baseline for me. There's so much more things that I've been studying and learning, and things that have been passed down to me from, my grandmother, and things that I want to, I don't want to say expose you all to, but just processes and things that have brought me here to this episode. That why I love human design and why I love other spiritual tools, metaphysics, and just any type of spiritual self-development, about rediscovering who you are, healing your inner child, and finding your purpose. And it's like all of this time I've been channeling stuff, writing things down, and I've just been ignoring this whole part of myself in fear of what people are going to think and what they're going to say. And I don't care anymore. And like I said, I'm not going to put up a sign and just say psychic channel Aycee Brown. I'd like my little, spiritual doula, intuitive strategist. I like that whole thing. But I am psychic. I am a channel. It flows through me when it comes to business and ideas and other things, any questions that people have. So I'm looking forward to, to exposing you all to this, if you're down for the ride, on top of human design. That'll be cool. But, like my aura affirmations, I channel that every morning. Like I literally just take a deep breath, and then all of a sudden, like my guides just start talking to me, and I just write it down. Like it literally takes me like 2 minutes. I've been doing like the custom aura affirmations. That's all channeled, and I've been getting some really great feedback from people who have been utilizing them. And so I'm just going to take this and run with it and stop being scaredy cat about it. And it's so funny because my mom, she always like, oh, can you read me? And I never read my family because it's like, it's annoying. It's like, no, my mom, she'll always like start crying during her reading, and I just don't have time for that. I don't really read for family. But it's so funny. When I first had moved here to the DMV area, and and this is just a side note, just about my gifts. And this is when I had my photography business. I was doing photography for a magazine, and we were all like talking, and one of the girls, I'm not going to say her name, because one of them probably listening, we were all talking. She was telling us about her boyfriend, and I just, as they like to say, Aycee, you just read her for filth. And I just read her, and I was just like, it's not gonna work out. I was just like, it's not gonna work out. But and I was just so like, not mean with it, but, and mind you, I had never met them at all. It was my first day meeting this team of creatives. And I'm like reading her, and I'm like, this is not gonna work out. This is how he is. This is how you guys are, what happens in your relationship. And so me not paying attention, the room got silent, and everybody was just minding their business. And I was just like, oh my gosh, these girls hate me. They're never going to work with me again. So years later, probably maybe years, I don't know how many years later, but maybe 2 years ago, I was with one of them, and I was at an event that they were throwing. And she was just like, Aycee, do you know everything you said that day was so true? That's why we were all silent. I was just like, well, why didn't you guys say anything? She was like, because we were so in shock. She was like, I think everybody was in shock because you read my relationship to a T. And I was like, well, what happened? Did y'all break up? She was like, we didn't break up for at least 2 or 3 years after that. But she's like, everything that you said was exactly right. And I was just like, oh, that's why you guys were silent. That's why you guys didn't say anything. She was like, yeah, we were in shock. Like, who the hell is this biatch, like, telling me about my relationship? And it was true. And so those things happen to me a lot. Or if I read for someone and they'll come back, they don't want to listen. And that's probably, I think that's probably the biggest thing why I don't read more, because I don't like when people listen. I know that's like, how dare you? You can't control that. But I don't like when people don't listen to me. It's frustrating, and more frustrating now. I understand for tarot readers, anybody who does any type of spiritual work, if you're going to them if you're going to be going closed or going to see them because you want to test their knowledge, or you're there as a more combative kind of antagonizing person to see if they're right, and you come closed off and you come just really just leave, it doesn't help at all. And some people might argue, well, if you know, it doesn't matter how I am, or etc. But that's not true, because that's not how spirit works. And when you're closed off and you don't want to listen, or you don't want to receive the information, it's so much of a waste of energy to tap into imagine you trying to get into a door, right? And the door, you have to push to get in, and you're constantly pushing. You're using all of this energy to push. And then there's somebody on the other side, literally just making sure you don't come in. Like, they're just standing, they're just making sure, let's not let her in. But you told them to come in, but you're like, nope, I'm not going to let them come in. I'm just going to stand here on the other side and make it harder for them to come in. The energy that goes into that. And I see some of my peers and people who I know who read, who are mediums and who are tarot readers. And I hear stories after stories. And that's why I always shy away from I'm not doing this. I'm not opening this up, because I don't feel like dealing with that. And that's why I sort of try to use it in business only. Because surprisingly, of course, when people are going to make money, they'll listen to you more. But when you come to them about, something more in general, they're a little bit more pressed to not pay attention. So, if you ever hire me to do anything like that, just come open and willing, and receptive. That's all I can say. But back to all I'm saying is that I'm doing this episode because it's time for me to stop running away from that part of myself, and I'm going to be incorporating it more and more and more into my business on the side. And actually, it's so funny, my other business, my products-based business, it started because of my psychic abilities. Actually, that's how I developed sleep issues. When I was about 14, it was the first time I had astral projected. You could look up what astral projection is. And unfortunately, my first time, I woke up in the middle of what they call is when your soul is coming back into your body. And I woke up, there was a huge black cloud over me, but that was actually my soul. And all of a sudden, my entire body was paralyzed. I couldn't move. I started screaming at the top of my lungs. Nothing was coming out at all. And I was frozen, literally frozen, from my eyes to my hands, nothing. And then all of a sudden I was able to move. That was probably my soul coming back into my body, as they say when you astral project. And then I just took a big and then I took a big gasp. And then I started hyperventilating. And then I looked and there was nobody in the room, but I remember seeing a black cloud over me, like a black figure over me, but it was actually my body. And so from that point on, I started taking sleep medication over the counter to go to sleep, because I was just not me, not today. I'm not going to be dealing with this. And, I was young. I was 14. And I remember telling my grandmother about it, and she was just like, you'll be fine. You'll be okay. And for me taking the sleep medication, it helped me not have to deal with that. But it happened again. It used to happen a lot in college. Oh my gosh, it used to happen a lot. And my roommate, she would be like, you were up last night just screaming. And I was just like, why didn't you do anything? She was like, oh, I just thought you were asleep. And I was just like, great. And so, it's just to happen a lot in college. It was just hilarious. But that's how I birthed my business, my products-based business, because then I got sort of addicted to over-the-counter sleep and prescription sleep medication. And then I had to wean myself off, long story. And then that's how I started getting into herbs and scents and smells and all of that stuff. And that's how it was born. So I say all of this to say that I'm Aycee Brown and I'm a psychic channel. Welcome to the rodeo. And I'm going to mix in a little bit of information that I get, and just topics that I'm going to talk about. As you already know, it's just not going to be human design, but I'm just giving a baseline of human design, and you'll start seeing that more in my work. But human design is still going to be the basis of it all, because I do feel that human design is just the way to start it all, to get like the ball rolling for people who are ready to discover, their aura, and then nurture their aura and then amplify it. So just stay tuned. And if you want to send me any words of encouragement, be nice. Don't get cute in the emails or DMs, because I'm still me. Do that. But if you want to send me any words of encouragement as I expose you all to this and start tapping more into it on a more professional level, not just sporadically, then holla at me. And I look forward to not being a minstrel show or, being entertainment for people, but really helping everyone get to the bottom of why they are here on earth, because that is extremely important to me. Helping those who are lost find their purpose and follow their destiny, and to, live their best life and figure out why the fuck you're here, because that's just super important to me. So thank you once again for listening to another episode of Is My Aura on Straight? And back to regular scheduled programming next episode. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. So until next time, I hope you have an amazing, amazing day filled with good vibes and great energy. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to another episode of Is My Aura on Straight? Make sure you follow me on Instagram at Aycee Brown, and also check out my website for products and services at www.ayceebrown.com. And until we meet again, make sure you have a great week filled with good vibes and good energy.